Have you ever wondered why your brain can remember the lyrics to a song you haven't heard in a decade, yet forgets a crucial piece of information you read just 10 minutes ago? You don't have a bad memory. You simply have the wrong operating manual. Most people treat their brains like a trash bin, throwing facts in and hoping they stick. But the sovereign mind treats the brain like a high-security vault. In this expansive masterclass, we are deconstructing the neural architecture of retention. Based on the groundbreaking research in Make It Stick by Peter C. Brown and the mental athleticism of unlimited memory by Kevin Horsley, we are moving beyond studying and into mastery. We aren't just learning how to memorize, we are learning how to perceive, encode, and dominate any field of knowledge. Welcome to the rescue mission for your mind. It's time to become a sovereign learner. Part 1. The Illusion of Fluency and the Curse of Rereading, Section 1 of 10. The Trap of Passive Learning. In the 21st century, we are drowning in information but starving for wisdom. Most students, professionals, and language learners fall into a deadly trap: the illusion of fluency. You pick up a book, you highlight the sentences, you reread the chapters, and because the text looks familiar, your brain whispers a lie. I know this. But familiarity is not mastery. According to Peter C. Brown in Make It Stick, rereading is the single most common and most useless study habit in existence. It feels good because it's easy. It creates a warm glow of recognition. But when the exam comes, or when you're standing in a boardroom needing that specific fact, the vault is empty. Why? Because you didn't encode the data, you just looked at it. Encoding, the biology of the trace. To understand memory, you must understand the memory trace. Think of your brain as a dense forest. Every time you learn something new, you are trying to create a path through the trees. Passive reading is like looking at the forest from a helicopter. You see the trees but you haven't cleared a path. True learning requires retrieval practice. This is the act of forcing your brain to pull information out of storage. When you struggle to remember a word or a concept, you are physically thickening the neural pathways. You are paving the road. The more difficult the retrieval, the stronger the memory becomes. On fluent minds, we call this desirable difficulty. If it feels easy, you aren't learning. You're just consuming. The two minds of memory. Kevin Horsley, in Unlimited Memory, argues that we have two primary modes of processing: the logical mind and the creative mind. The logical mind, this is the part that wants structure, data, and definitions. It's the CEO we discussed in previous sessions. It's efficient but boring. The creative mind, this is the artist. It thinks in pictures, smells, emotions, and exaggerations. The secret to a sovereign memory is a bridge between these two. Logic provides the what, but creativity provides the hook. If you want to remember the name of a new business partner, John Smith is a logical data point that will evaporate. But if you visualize a giant John, as in a toilet, made of solid gold, smithing, the image is so ridiculous that the brain cannot help but store it. The spacing effect, timing your sovereignty. We have been lied to about cramming. Staying up all night to master a subject is a biological disaster. Memory is a biological process of consolidation, and consolidation happens primarily during sleep. The spacing effect is the scientific law that says, information is better retained when learning is spread out over time. If you have 5 hours to learn a new English grammar rule, don't spend 5 hours today. Spend 30 minutes every day for 10 days. Why? Because every time you almost forget the information and then force yourself to retrieve it, you are doubling the strength of the neural bond. This is called spaced repetition. It is the heartbeat of rapid acquisition. The architecture of attention. You cannot memorize what you do not attend to. In 2026, the attention economy is designed to keep your focus fragmented. Every notification is a leak in your cognitive bucket. To be a sovereign learner, you must practice deep work. If you are listening to a podcast while scrolling on TikTok, you are not learning. You are creating attention residue. Your brain is stuck between two worlds, and as a result, it encodes nothing deeply. The first step to a 10x memory isn't a technique, it's a decision. The decision to be fully present with the information for a focused block of time. The narrative of meaning. We remember stories, not statistics. Your brain is a narrative machine. If you want to master the principles of learning psychology, don't memorize the definitions of schema or metacognition. Build a story around them. Imagine a schema as a mental closet, where you hang new clothes, information. If the closet is disorganized, you can't find the shirt. Metacognition is the manager standing outside the closet, checking if the clothes are organized correctly. By using metaphors and narrative, you are attaching new, homeless information to existing, well-housed concepts. This is the hook method. You cannot hang a coat on a wall with no hooks. Every piece of information you already know is a hook. Your job is to find the connection. Part 2. The Science of Mental Models and the Power of Elaboration. Section 2 of 10. The Scaffolding of the Mind. What is a mental model? Most people learn in silos. They learn a math formula, then a history date, then an English grammar rule, and they keep them in separate boxes. This is the fastest way to forget everything. In Make It Stick, Peter Brown introduces the concept of mental models. A mental model is a cognitive map that allows you to understand how things work across different fields. Think of a pilot. A pilot doesn't just memorize, if the light turns red, push the blue button. A pilot builds a mental model of aerodynamics. Because they understand the principles of lift and drag, they can solve 1,000 different problems they've never seen before. On Fluent Minds, we don't want you to be a parrot. We want you to be an architect. Every time you learn a new concept, ask yourself, how does this connect to what I already know about physics, business, or human nature? This is called interleaving, and it is the secret to genius. Elaboration, the art of mental Velcro. Why do some people seem to learn 10x faster than others? The secret is elaboration. Elaboration is the process of giving new material meaning by expressing it in your own words and connecting it with what you already know. Imagine new information as a smooth marble. If you try to stick a marble to a wall, it falls. But if you wrap that marble in Velcro, it sticks to anything. Elaboration is the Velcro of the mind. The sovereign technique. When you read a page of Make It Stick, don't just highlight it. Close the book and explain that concept to an imaginary 10-year-old. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it deeply. This is known as the Feynman technique, and it is the ultimate filter for the illusion of fluency. By forcing yourself to translate complex jargon into human language, you are weaving the information into the very fabric of your existing knowledge. The power of generative learning. Most people wait for the teacher to give them the answer. The sovereign learner tries to solve the problem before being shown the solution. This is called generative learning. In a famous study mentioned in Make It Stick, students were asked to solve a complex math problem before they were taught the formula. They failed, of course. And here is the magic. When they were finally shown the formula, they learned it significantly faster and retained it longer than the students who were given the formula first. Why? Because the struggle created need-based hooks in their brains. Your brain doesn't like unused information. But when you struggle to solve a problem, your brain creates a void, and when the answer arrives, it rushes to fill that void. The lesson for 2026: don't be afraid to be wrong. Being wrong is just your brain's way of preparing the soil for the seed of the right answer. Unlimited memory, the loci, or memory palace method. Kevin Horsley in Unlimited Memory takes us from the biological to the spatial. Your brain evolved to remember places, not lists. Our ancestors didn't need to remember the 48 laws of power. They needed to remember where the water was and where the lions slept. The memory palace method of loci is the most powerful mnemonic tool in human history. It involves taking a place you know intimately, like your childhood home, and placing information along a path inside it. Step 1. The journey. Walk through your house in your mind. The front door, the hallway, the kitchen table, the sink. These are your pegs. Step 2. The image. If you want to remember the law of scarcity, visualize a giant, rare diamond sitting on your kitchen table, guarded by a tiny, angry lion. Step 3. The association. The more ridiculous, colorful, and emotional the image, the better. Your brain ignores the mundane. It remembers the sovereignly absurd. When you need the information, you simply walk through your house again. The diamond is still there. The lion is still there. The information is physically anchored to your spatial memory. You aren't searching for a thought. You are visiting a location. The multisensory encoding secret. We have been taught that we have learning styles. Some are visual, some are auditory. This is a myth. Research shows that everyone learns better when information is presented in multiple formats. To 10x your acquisition, you must engage the sensory trio. Visual. See the image of the concept. Draw a mind map. Auditory, hear the logic of the concept. Record yourself explaining it and listen back. Kinesthetic, feel the structure of the concept. Use your hands to gesture while you talk or write it out by hand, not on a keyboard. When you engage multiple senses, you are creating multiple backup files in your brain. If the visual memory fails, the kinesthetic memory, the feeling of the pen on paper, will often pull the information back from the abyss. Metacognition, the observer of the ascent. The final piece of this section is metacognition, the act of thinking about your thinking. A sovereign learner is constantly auditing their own mind. Am I actually learning this, or am I just familiar with the words? Where is the gap in my understanding? If I had to apply this principle in a crisis tomorrow, would I know the first step? By stepping outside of yourself and becoming this sovereign observer, you stop being a victim of your own biases. You stop studying hard and start learning smart. You realize that the goal isn't to finish the book. The goal is to change your internal map of reality. Part 3. The Biology of Interleaving and the Trap of Mass Practice, Section 3 of 10, The Seductive Lie of Mass Practice. In the world of education and corporate training, there is a ghost that haunts every classroom. Mass practice. This is the act of doing the same thing over and over again until you get it. Think of a golfer hitting 100 identical putts, or a student solving 50 identical algebra problems in one sitting. Feels productive. It feels like you're burning it in. But according to Peter C. Brown and Make It Stick, this is a cognitive illusion. Mass practice creates short-term fluency but long-term bankruptcy. When you do the same thing repeatedly, your brain goes on autopilot. It stops thinking and starts mimicking. The information stays in your short-term working memory, but it never makes the leap to your long-term sovereign vault. The moment you face a slightly different problem or a week passes, the knowledge evaporates. Why? Because you never practiced the most important skill: discrimination. Interleaving, the chaos that creates mastery. The sovereign learner uses a superior weapon: interleaving. Interleaving is the practice of mixing up different subjects or different types of problems within a single study session. Instead of doing Law 1, Law 1, Law 1, then Law 2, Law 2, Law 2, you do Law 1, then a bit of Law 4, then a vocabulary word, then back to Law 1, then a math problem. This feels terrible. It feels slow. Feels like you're making more mistakes. But this is the desirable difficulty we discussed. When you interleave, your brain cannot rely on autopilot. Every time you switch topics, your brain has to reload the previous concept. This constant loading and unloading is like lifting weights for your neurons. It forces your brain to identify the essential commonalities between problems. You aren't just learning the answer, you are learning how to choose the right strategy. The 2026 Sovereign Rule. If your study session feels organized and smooth, you are wasting your time. If it feels messy and challenging, you are actually growing. Varied practice, the sand trap secret. In a famous study of elite athletes, one group practiced throwing beanbags into a hole from exactly 3 feet away. The second group practiced from 2 feet and 4 feet, but never from 3 feet. When the final test came and everyone had to throw from exactly 3 feet, the second group, who had never practiced that distance, crushed the first group. Why? Because the second group developed a flexible mental model of distance and force. They didn't just memorize a muscle movement, they learned the principle of the throw. Application for you. If you're learning English, don't just practice business English. Read a poem, watch a scientific documentary, and then listen to a street interview. By varying the context, you are teaching your brain to recognize the sovereign core of the language, regardless of the visual noise. Unlimited memory, the power of visualization and the VAP. Kevin Horsley in Unlimited Memory reminds us that the brain is a visual machine. We don't think in words, we think in movies. To memorize anything rapidly, you must apply the VAP rule. V. Visualization, you must see the information. Association, you must connect it to something you already know. P. Place, you must anchor it in a location, the memory palace. But Horsley adds a sovereign twist: exaggeration. If you want to remember the word resilience, don't just think of a rubber band. Visualize a giant 50-foot tall rubber band made of glowing neon purple lava, wrapping around the Burj Khalifa and snapping back with the sound of 1,000 drums. The brain has a boredom filter. It deletes 99% of what it sees, but it cannot delete the absurd. When you exaggerate your mental images, making them bigger, louder, smellier, and more emotional, you are essentially bypassing the filter and writing directly onto the hard drive. The Leitner system, automating your spaced repetition. To master the spacing effect, you need a system. You cannot rely on feeling like you know something. You need a Leitner box, or a digital equivalent like Anki. Box 1, things you don't know, review every day. Box 2, things you kind of know, review every 3 days. Box 3, things you know well, review once a week. When you get a retrieval right, the card moves to the next box. When you get it wrong, it goes back to box 1. This ensures that you are spending 80% of your energy on your weaknesses. Most people do the opposite. They review what they already know because it makes them feel smart. The sovereign learner hunts for their ignorance. They seek the struggle point. The sleep learning connection. We must address the biological cleanup crew. While you sleep, your brain is not off. It is performing synaptic pruning. It is looking at the thousands of things you saw today and deciding what to keep. If you cram and don't sleep, the information stays in the hippocampus, short-term storage, and never migrates to the neocortex, long-term storage. The sovereign strategy: study your most difficult material 60 minutes before bed. Then get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Your brain will literally replay those neural patterns while you dream, strengthening them by up to 40% without you lifting a finger. Sleep is not a luxury, it is the finishing school for your memory. We have now mastered the chaos of interleaving and the absurdity of visualization. We are no longer students, we are neural architects. Part 4. The Psychology of Failure, Why Getting It Wrong is the Only Way to Get It Right. Section 4 of 10, The Fear of the Blank Page. In the traditional education system, we are punished for being wrong. A red mark on a test is a symbol of shame. This creates a psychological barrier that Robert Greene and Peter Brown both identify as the safety trap. Most people only study what they are already good at because it makes them feel competent. They avoid the blank page because they are afraid of the silence of not knowing. But according to Peter C. Brown in Make It Stick, the moment of not knowing is actually the most fertile ground for long-term memory. When you attempt to answer a question and fail, your brain experiences a cognitive gap. This gap is like a vacuum. It creates a powerful biological need to know. When the correct answer finally arrives, your brain doesn't just hear it, it grabs it. The sovereign strategy: never look at the answer first. If you are learning a new English concept or a trading strategy, force yourself to predict the outcome before you see the explanation. Even a wrong prediction creates a neural hook that makes the right answer stick 10x better. Metacognitive illusion, the Dunning-Kruger of learning. Why do we think we know things when we don't? This is the metacognitive illusion. When you read a text, it becomes fluent in your mind. The words flow easily. You tell yourself, I've got this. But this is just lower-level recognition. Recognition is not recall. Asterisk recognition: I've seen this before. Passive weak. Recall: I can produce this from nothing. Active sovereign. To break this illusion, the sovereign learner uses self-testing as a daily ritual. You don't test yourself to see if you passed. You test yourself to find where you are weak. You hunt for the black holes in your knowledge. Every time you realize you don't know something, you have just saved yourself months of wasted time. You have found the leak in your cognitive bucket. Unlimited memory, the self-correction loop. Kevin Horsley in Unlimited Memory argues that the biggest barrier to a 10x memory is mental fog. Fog is caused by passive consumption. When you watch a 2-hour masterclass on Fluent Minds, your brain is in movie mode. It is relaxed. To snap your brain into sovereign mode, you must use the 90-10 rule. Spend 10% of your time consuming the information. Spend 90% of your time manipulating the information. Manipulation means visualizing it, drawing a crude map of the concept. Associating it, connecting it to a memory of your childhood. Verbalizing it, explaining it out loud to an empty room. If you aren't manipulating the data, you aren't owning it. You are just renting it from the book, and the rent is due in 24 hours. The biology of error correction, myelin. Let's talk about the white matter of the brain, myelin. Myelin is the insulating sheath that wraps around your neural pathways. Think of it like the plastic coating on an electrical wire. The thicker the myelin, the faster the signal travels and the more automatic the skill becomes. How do you build myelin? You build it through deep practice. Deep practice requires you to operate at the edge of your ability. If you are doing something you can already do perfectly, you are not building myelin. You only build it when you make a mistake, realize it, and correct it. This is why sovereign learning feels like a struggle. You are literally wrapping your neurons in insulation. Every time you stumble on a word and find the right one, you are adding a layer of myelin. This is the secret sauce of the world's greatest polyglots and masters. They don't have better brains, they have thicker myelin. The mastery mindset, growth versus fixed. Carol Dweck's research on the growth mindset is essential here. Fixed mindset, I'm not good at languages/math. My memory is bad. The victim. Growth mindset, my brain is a muscle. This struggle is how I get stronger. The sovereign. If you believe your memory is a fixed tank, with a certain capacity, you will never expand it. But if you realize your brain is neuroplastic, every failure becomes a rep in the mental gym. The Fluent Minds exercise. Next time you feel frustrated while learning, say out loud, this frustration is the feeling of myelin being built. My brain is literally upgrading right now. This linguistic shift changes your neurochemistry from cortisol, stress, to dopamine, reward. You begin to crave the challenge. Retrieval cues, building the access road. Memory isn't just about storage, it's about access. Most people have the information in their heads, but they can't find the road to get to it. Kevin Horsley teaches us to build multiple access roads through retrieval cues. Don't just remember a fact. Remember the smell you associate with it. Remember the location in your memory palace. Remember the acronym, e.g. VAP. The more cues you have, the more roads lead to the treasure. If one road is blocked by stress or fatigue, you can take the smell road or the location road. This is why sovereign learners seem to have instant recall. They aren't faster, they just have better infrastructure. We have now conquered the psychology of failure. We have learned to love this struggle and how to insulate our neurons with myelin. Part 5. The Architecture of Concentration, How to Kill the Digital Noise and Enter the Flow State, Section 5 of 10, The Crisis of Fragmentation. In the modern era, we are suffering from a cognitive leak. Every time you check a notification while trying to master a concept from Make It Stick, you aren't just losing 5 seconds. You are losing cognitive momentum. This is what Cal Newport calls attention residue. Even when you go back to the book, a part of your brain is still stuck on that WhatsApp message or that TikTok comment. To be a sovereign learner, you must realize that information is cheap, but concentration is priceless. If your brain is a spotlight, the digital world is a series of mirrors trying to scatter that light. Your goal is to turn the spotlight into a laser. According to Kevin Horsley in Unlimited Memory, a 10x memory is impossible without a 10x focus. You cannot memorize what you do not truly see. The biology of flow, the 4% rule. The flow state, popularized by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, is the state where the self disappears, time vanishes, and your performance skyrockets. But how do you enter it? The challenge skill balance. If the task is too easy, rereading, you get bored. If it's too hard, you get anxious. Flow happens at the 4% edge, where the task is just slightly beyond your current ability. The sovereign hook. This is why desirable difficulty is so powerful. By forcing yourself to retrieve information or solve a problem before seeing the answer, you are pulling your brain into the flow zone. You are making the game interesting enough for your brain to lock in. Environmental design, the fortress of focus. The sovereign learner does not rely on willpower. Willpower is a limited resource that runs out by 2 p.m. Instead, you use environmental design. Asterisk the airplane mode life. Even if you aren't on a plane, your phone must be in another room. The mere presence of a smartphone, even if it's turned off, reduces your cognitive capacity. It's a gravity well for your attention. The ritual of the space. Have a specific desk, a specific chair, and even a specific smell, like peppermint or coffee, that you only use for deep learning. Over time, your brain creates a classical conditioning bond. The moment you sit in that chair, your brain releases the neurochemicals associated with focus. You don't try to concentrate, you simply arrive at concentration. Unlimited memory, the observation muscle. Kevin Horsley argues that most people forget things not because they have a bad memory, but because they never observed them in the first place. They were absent-minded. The exercise: look at a complex image or a paragraph for 30 seconds. Close your eyes. How many details can you reconstruct? The sovereign habit. Before you start a study session, spend 2 minutes in radical presence. Notice the weight of your body in the chair, the sound of your breath. This clears the RAM of your brain. It prepares the storage space for the new data. You move from a state of reactive scanning to proactive encoding. The Zeigarnik effect. Closing the open loops. Why does your brain keep thinking about unfinished tasks when you're trying to learn? This is the Zeigarnik effect. Your brain hates open loops. The strategy: before you start your deep learning block, do a brain dump. Write down every task, every worry, and every to-do on a piece of paper. This tells your brain, it's recorded, you don't need to hold it in active memory anymore. This frees up your working memory, the workbench of the brain, to focus entirely on the material at hand. The Pomodoro 2.0, deep sprints. The sovereign learner uses micro-sprints. Instead of a vague, I will study for 3 hours, use the 90-minute sovereign block. 60 minutes, total immersion. No distractions. No breaks. The deep dive. 10 minutes, interleaved review. Quickly testing yourself on what you just read. 20 minutes, radical rest. No screens. Walk, stare at a wall, or close your eyes. The 20-minute rest is where the magic happens. This is when the brain moves the data from the temporary buffer to the long-term storage. If you scroll on your phone during your break, you are overwriting the new data with digital junk. Protect your rest as much as your work. Digital minimalism, the information diet. If you want a high-performance memory, you must go on an information diet. The rule: stop consuming fast food information, short, fragmented, clickbait content. It trains your brain to expect a dopamine hit every 15 seconds. This shrinks your attention span. The sovereign choice: read long-form books. Listen to 2-hour masterclasses like this one. Force your brain to follow a long thread of logic. This stretches your focus muscles. You are rebuilding the capacity for sustained intellectual sovereignty. Part 6. The Art of Mnemonics, The Secret Systems of World Memory Champions, Section 6 of 10, The Myth of the Photographic Memory. Many people look at memory champions and assume they were born with a biological camera in their brains. This is a complete lie. According to Kevin Horsley in Unlimited Memory, most champions started with average, or even below average, memories. The difference is that they stopped using their natural memory and started using trained memory. Natural memory is like trying to catch rain with your bare hands. Trained memory is like building a complex system of pipes and tanks. To be a sovereign learner, you must move from rote memorization, repeating things like a parrot, to mnemonic mastery, coding things like a computer. The C principle, your internal cinema clapperboard. Horsley's core system is built on the SEE principle. If you want to remember any advanced concept from Make It Stick or a complex English phrase, you must. Senses, use all 5 senses. Don't just see the word, smell it, taste it, hear it, scream. Exaggeration, make it giant, tiny, or absurd. A normal-sized apple is boring. An apple the size of a skyscraper made of ticking clocks is unforgettable. Energy, put your images in motion. Static pictures are dead. Moving movies are alive. If you see a clock, imagine it exploding into a million gears that turn into birds. The sovereign rule: the more illogical the image, the more logical it is for your brain to keep it. Your brain has a boredom filter, the reticular activating system, that deletes the mundane. To bypass it, you must be sovereignly ridiculous. The PEG system, your mental clothes hanger's t-shirt. In part 2 we discussed the memory palace, but sometimes you need to memorize a list of 20 items quickly without walking through a house. This is where the PEG system comes in. The PEG system involves pre-memorizing a list of hangers, usually numbers that look like objects. 1 is a candle, shape of 1. 2 is a swan, shape of 2. 3 is a heart, shape of 3. The strategy, if you want to remember the first 3 laws of learning psychology. Retrieval: imagine a candle melting over a giant brain-shaped vault, retrieval is pulling from the vault. Spacing. Imagine a swan flying slowly across a giant calendar. Spacing is about time. Interleaving. Imagine a heart beating with different colored liquids mixing inside it. Interleaving is mixing topics. Now you don't try to remember. You just think one, candle, and the image of the brain vault pops up instantly. You have created a permanent access road. The self-reference effect. In Make It Stick, Peter Brown discusses the self-reference effect. This is the psychological truth that we remember things 10x better when they relate to us. The trap. Reading a definition of neuroplasticity in a textbook. The sovereign strategy. Connect neuroplasticity to the time you learned how to ride a bike or play an instrument. Remember the frustration, the shaky hands, and then the eventual click. By hooking the new concept to a personal emotional memory, you are telling your brain, this is part of my life story. Your brain never deletes your life story. It only deletes other people's facts. The number shape and number rhyme techniques. For those in the general audience who struggle with numbers, dates, or prices, Horsley teaches the number sound system, the major system. But for rapid acquisition, start with number rhyme. 1 1, 2 shoe, 3 tree. If you need to remember that the mastery mindset has 3 pillars, visualize a giant tree growing out of a brain, with 3 golden pillars holding up the branches. When you think, how many pillars? Your brain says 3 tree, and the image appears. This is called synaptic linking. You are using a known, the rhyme, to pull an unknown, the number, into consciousness. The Feynman Technique 2.0, Teach to Learn. The most advanced mnemonic is not an image, it's a social action. As mentioned in Make It Stick, the act of teaching is the ultimate retrieval practice. The sovereign exercise. After watching this section, go to the comments or find a friend and explain the PEG system to them. The magic. When you teach, you encounter gaps in your logic. Your brain has to restructure the information to make it understandable for someone else. This restructuring is the highest form of encoding. You are no longer just a student, you are the architect of knowledge. The acronym POWER, chunking the complex. Your brain can only hold about 7 items in its working memory. This is why phone numbers are 7 digits. To beat this, you must chunk. Instead of remembering 20 individual facts, turn them into an acronym. Example: RESPCT, retrieval, elaboration, spacing, practice, exaggeration, consolidation, testing. One word, respect, now holds 7 master principles. This is how the sovereign learner carries a library inside a single sentence. Part 7. The Biology of Neuroplasticity, How to Physically Rewire Your Brain for 10x Growth, Section 7 of 10, The Death of the Fixed Brain Myth. For decades, the scientific community believed that the brain was a static organ, that you were born with a certain number of neurons and a fixed amount of intelligence, and after age 25, it was all downhill. This was the greatest lie in history. Modern neuroscience, as highlighted in Make It Stick, proves that the brain is more like plasticine than porcelain. It is constantly reconfiguring itself based on the demands you place upon it. To be a sovereign learner, you must stop saying, "I am not good at this," and start saying, "I haven't wired my brain for this yet." The Hebbian principle, fire together, wire together. The fundamental law of neuroplasticity is Hebb's law. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Every time you practice a retrieval cue or use a memory palace, you are forcing specific neurons to communicate. The more they communicate, the stronger the physical bond, the synapse, between them becomes. The sovereign insight. Learning is not just remembering, it is physical construction. You are an engineer building bridges in your skull. If you stop practicing, the bridge collapses, synaptic pruning. If you keep practicing with spaced repetition, the bridge turns from wood to steel to carbon fiber. Myelination, the high-speed internet of the mind. We touched on myelin in part 4, but here we look at its architectural power. Myelin is a fatty substance that wraps around the axons of your neurons. Without myelin, nerve signals travel like a person walking through a swamp, slow and leaky. With myelin, nerve signals travel like a bullet train, up to 200 miles per hour. The sovereign strategy. Myelin is only produced during deep practice and deep sleep. When you struggle to remember a complex concept from unlimited memory, you are sending a signal to your oligodendrocytes, the cells that make myelin, to wrap that specific circuit. This is why easy learning is useless. It doesn't trigger the myelination process. You must reach the struggle point to trigger the physical upgrade. Neurogenesis, growing new neurons. Did you know you can grow brand new brain cells in your hippocampus, the center of memory? This is called neurogenesis. How do you trigger it? Aerobic exercise. Running or swimming increases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as miracle grow for your brain. It protects existing neurons and encourages the birth of new ones. Novelty, your brain hates the same. When you use interleaving, mixing topics, as taught in Make It Stick, you are forcing the brain to stay alert. This alertness triggers the survival mechanisms that promote neurogenesis. The sovereign diet, omega-3 fatty acids and antioxidants are the raw materials for these new cells. You cannot build a 10x brain with 1x fuel. The synaptic pruning secret. Your brain is a master of efficiency. It is constantly performing neural gardening. If a connection isn't used, the brain cuts it to save energy. This is why cramming fails. When you cram, you create many weak connections, but because you don't sleep or space out the review, the brain's gardener sees them as weeds and cuts them the next night. The sovereign habit. By reviewing information just as you are about to forget it, you are tagging that connection as essential. You are telling the gardener, do not cut this. This is a fruit tree. Emotional marking, the amygdala's role. Kevin Horsley emphasizes emotion for a biological reason. The amygdala sits right next to the hippocampus. When you create a ridiculous, exaggerated image, like a swan made of lava, the amygdala sends a massive electrical jolt to the hippocampus, saying, this is important. Encode it with high priority. Boring information is low voltage. Sovereign information is high voltage. By adding humor, shock, or weirdness to your mnemonics, you are hacking your brain's biological priority system. The Proteus effect, changing your cognitive identity. Neuroplasticity isn't just about facts, it's about identity. If you tell yourself, I have a bad memory, your brain will physically align its architecture to fulfill that prophecy. It will be less alert because it doesn't expect to succeed. The sovereign exercise. Use the as-if principle. Act as if you already have an unlimited memory. When you encounter a difficult task, don't shrink, expand. This identity shift changes your neurochemistry from inhibition to facilitation. You aren't just learning, you are reinventing the machine. Part 8. The Architecture of Reading, How to Deconstruct a Book for Maximum ROI, Section 8 of 10, The Tragedy of Linear Reading. Most people read a book from page 1 to page 300 like they are watching a movie. This is a massive mistake. A nonfiction book like Make It Stick or Unlimited Memory is not a story, it is a database. If you read it linearly, you are treating every page with equal importance, which is a lie. 80% of the value is usually hidden in 20% of the pages. The sovereign strategy, inspectional reading. Before you read a single word, spend 15 minutes mining the book. The table of contents. This is the skeleton of the author's argument. The index. Look for terms that appear most frequently. These are the connective tissues. The conclusion. Start at the end. If you know the destination, the journey makes more sense. By the time you start chapter 1, you already have a mental map of the book. You aren't exploring a dark cave. You are visiting a house you've already seen the blueprints for. Syntopical reading. Moving beyond the author. A sovereign learner never reads one book in isolation. According to Peter Brown, deep mastery comes from syntopical reading, reading multiple books on the same subject simultaneously. The technique: open Make It Stick and Unlimited Memory side by side. Look for where they agree and where they disagree. The magic: when you find a conflict between two experts, your brain is forced to think for itself. You move from what did Peter Brown say to what is the truth about memory? This is the birth of original thought. You are no longer a consumer, you are a synthesizer. The active margin method. If your book is clean, you haven't learned anything. A sovereign's book should look like a battlefield. Don't highlight. Highlighting is a passive illusion of fluency. It tells your brain, I'll remember this later, so your brain deletes it now. The sovereign habit. Write questions in the margins. Instead of highlighting a definition of interleaving, write, How can I use this in my English practice tomorrow? By turning statements into questions, you are triggering the retrieval practice we discussed in part 1. You are forcing your brain to work for the answer every time you flip the page. The SQ3R system, the gold standard of study. To 10x your ROI, use the SQ3R method, which aligns perfectly with the science, and make it stick. S. Survey, scan the headings and images. Q. Question, turn every heading into a question. E.g., the power of mnemonics becomes, why are mnemonics powerful? R. Read, read specifically to answer your question. R. Recite, close the book and answer the question out loud. R. Review, spaced repetition of your answers. Unlimited memory, the pictorial table of contents. Kevin Horsley suggests a brilliant sovereign hack. Turn the table of contents into a memory palace. Assign each chapter to a room in your house. Chapter 1, Retrieval, is the front door. Visualize a giant retrieval vault hanging on the door. Chapter 2, Spacing, is the hallway. Visualize a giant calendar running down the walls. Now, even if you lose the book, you still own the database. You can browse the book's core concepts while you are driving or walking. You have turned a physical object into a neural asset. The Lehman filter, the 3-sentence summary. After every chapter, apply the Lehman filter. If you cannot summarize the entire chapter in 3 clear, powerful sentences, you don't own the material. What is the core problem? How does the author solve it? Why does it matter to me? If you can do this, you have compressed the data. Compression is the ultimate sign of mastery. It means you have moved from complex confusion to simple sovereignty. The capture versus creation balance. Stop collecting information and start creating with it. For every hour of reading, you should spend 30 minutes creating. Write a blog post. Record a 5-minute video, even if only for yourself. Build a mind map. If you don't output, the input will eventually leak out. As we say on Fluent Minds, you are not a storage unit. You are a power plant. Your job is to turn the fuel of books into the energy of action. Part 9. The Social Architecture of Learning, the Power of Communities and the Mastermind Effect. Section 9 of 10. The Protégé Effect. Teaching to Dominate. As we've hinted throughout this masterclass, the ultimate retrieval practice isn't a flashcard. It's a human being. Research and Make It Stick confirms the protégé effect. Students who prepare to teach others learn much more effectively than those who just study for themselves. The biology. When you teach, your brain is forced to perform higher-order encoding. You have to anticipate questions, simplify complexity, and organize the logic. This social pressure triggers a release of norepinephrine, which acts as a spotlight for your attention. The sovereign habit. Don't wait to be an expert to teach. Be a documentarian. Share what you learned today on a forum, a YouTube comment, or with a friend. By externalizing your internal thoughts, you are physically hardening the neural connections. The mastermind effect. 1 + 1 is equal to 11. Napoleon Hill popularized the mastermind, but Robert Greene and Kevin Horsley apply it to the acquisition of power. When 2 or more minds come together in a spirit of harmony toward a single goal, they create a third mind, the mastermind. The trap. Studying alone in a dark room. You become a victim of your own blind spots. You think you understand a concept from unlimited memory, but you've actually misinterpreted it. The sovereign strategy. Find or create a learning tribe. Surround yourself with people who are 2 levels ahead of you. Their normal will become your benchmark. In these groups, the social mirror forces you to be precise. You cannot hide your ignorance when you have to explain your strategy to a peer. The constructive conflict principle. In Make It Stick, Peter Brown notes that easy learning is often an illusion. The same applies to social learning. If everyone in your study group agrees with you, you are in an echo chamber, not a mastermind. The sovereign move. Seek disagreement. Ask your peers to poke holes in your memory palace. When someone challenges your understanding of interleaving, your brain goes into defensive retrieval. It frantically searches for evidence to support your claim. This heat of debate is the ultimate myelin builder. It turns fuzzy ideas into ironclad principles. Unlimited memory, the group visualization hack. Kevin Horsley suggests using the collective imagination to anchor complex data. The exercise. If you are learning the 48 laws of power with a partner, create a shared memory palace. Asterisk, you visualize the candle, law 1, and your partner adds the swan, law 2. Because you are socially anchoring the images, you have two brains holding the same data. If you forget the swan, the memory of your partner's voice describing it will pull the image back. This is called distributed cognition. The vulnerability of the sovereign. Most people refuse to ask for help because they want to look smart. But the sovereign learner knows that pride is the enemy of growth. Asterisk, the strategy, practice public failure. Ask the stupid question in the seminar. Admit when you don't understand a paragraph and make it stick. The result, by admitting ignorance, you lower your amygdala response, the fear of being judged. Once the fear is gone, the prefrontal cortex, the CEO, can focus 100% on the data. You aren't wasting energy protecting your ego, you are using that energy to build your brain. Social media, from consumption to contribution. In 2026, social media is a digital mountain. Most people are at the base, being crushed by the fog of infinite scrolling. The sovereign learner uses it as a global mastermind. Stop scrolling, that is passive recognition, the illusion of fluency. Start curating, follow only the primary sources. Engage with them. Write threads summarizing their work. By summarizing a 300-page book like unlimited memory into a 10-tweet thread, you are performing the highest level of synthesis. You are the filter for the world. The mirror neuron shortcut. Your brain has mirror neurons that fire when you watch someone else perform a skill. This is why apprenticeship is so powerful. The sovereign habit. Watch mastery in action. Watch a memory champion perform. Watch a polyglot speak. Don't just admire them, mirror them. Mimic their intensity, their focus, and their rituals. You are hacking your biological learning system by downloading their behavioral patterns through observation. Part 10. The Eternal Ascent. The Lifelong Rituals of the Sovereign Learner, Section 10 of 10, The Myth of Completion. The average person reads a book, puts it on the shelf and says, "I finished it." This is a fundamental misunderstanding of the brain. Memory is a living, breathing ecosystem. If you don't visit your memories, they die. In Make It Stick, Peter Brown emphasizes that mastery is a process of reconsolidation. Every time you recall a fact from unlimited memory, you aren't just finding it, you are rewriting it. The sovereign rule: you never finish a subject. You only reach new levels of resolution. Like a digital image moving from 480p to 4K, the more you review and interleave, the sharper the picture becomes. The daily audit, metacognition in action. To maintain your sovereignty, you must perform a nightly cognitive audit. 1. What did I struggle with today? This is your myelin map. 2. Where was my attention fragmented? This is your focus leak. 3. How did I connect a new fact to an old memory? This is your scaffolding. By asking these questions, you are training your prefrontal cortex to stay alert. You are moving from a passive consumer to a sovereign architect. You are no longer just living, you are designing your evolution. Unlimited memory, the memory palace maintenance. Kevin Horsley reminds us that even the best memory palace needs cleaning. The ritual: once a week, spend 15 minutes walking through your primary palaces. Dust off the images. Make the swan, law 2, brighter. Make the heart, interleaving, beat louder. The logic: this is the biological process of synaptic strengthening. By revisiting your anchors, you are telling your brain's gardener, this area is high-value real estate. Do not prune these connections. The white space strategy. In 2026, we are terrified of doing nothing. But for the sovereign learner, boredom is a superpower. Asterisk, the trap. Filling every second with podcasts, music, or news. This prevents consolidation. Asterisk, the sovereign habit. Practice radical stillness. Spend 10 minutes a day staring at a wall or walking in silence. The magic. This is when your brain performs offline processing. It starts connecting the dots between Make It Stick and your daily life without you even trying. Insights happen in the white space, not in the noise. The Fluent Mind's Manifesto. Language as the lens. As we close this masterclass, remember that language is the blueprint of thought. Asterisk, if you have a limited vocabulary, You have a limited reality. By mastering the elite English we use in these scripts, you aren't just learning a language, you are expanding the boundaries of your world. Asterisk words like neuroplasticity, interleaving, and metacognition are not just jargon. They are tools of perception. Once you have the word, you can see the phenomenon. Once you see the phenomenon, you can master it. The philosophy of the infinite learner. Robert Greene often says that the greatest power is adaptability. The world will change. The top searches of 2026 will be different in 2030. The person who memorized facts will be obsolete. The person who mastered the science of learning will be invincible. You now have the master key. You know how to encode, how to anchor, how to focus, and how to rewire your biology. You are no longer a victim of your natural memory. You are a sovereign learner. Final synthesis, the unity of the mind. The mountain was never outside of you. Your brain is the mountain. Every struggle was a step upward. Every failure was an upgrade. Every image in your memory palace is a monument to your growth. Conclusion of the masterclass, you have traveled through the 10 sections. You have deconstructed the mechanics of the brain. You have built a fortress of concentration. Now the script ends, but your ascent begins.